Yep. Jenny, do you want to unmute yourself? I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Okay, we'll open this public hearing Wednesday, October 21st. The time is 6 p.m. The topic is consider an ordinance for uh, adoption of the proposed St. Helens Urban Renewal Plan Amendment. And I will now turn it over to our associate planner, Jenny Dimshow.
Mayor, I
Thank
believe
you.
she was going to kick it back to me to
Yep.
start us off here. If you're
Oh, okay. Well, you guys can let me
all
know.
right with that. So yeah, tonight on your regular council agenda, there's a first reading for ordinance 3257, which is an ordinance relating to the approval of the Urban Renewal Plan Amendment number 2, and directing that notice of approval be published. And we're having a public hearing related to that. And to start us off, as you're very familiar, over the last several months, we've been working on the plan amendment. We do have Elaine Howard, our consultant, on board as a resource to answer any questions you might have. She doesn't necessarily have a role here other than to be there in the background. But so a little bit of history. The city's been working on urban renewal, formed the agency back in 2008. We didn't get around to forming an adopting an urban renewal plan until 2017. So it sat dormant for many, many years to the point where we needed to start over. And the plan we came up with in 2017 was based off a number of assumptions, both of growth and in the projects we wanted to build, and the growth and the financial revenue that would come to necessary to fulfill that growth. And as over the last, since 2017, the agency has not been performing as well, and that's almost exclusively due to the leaving of Armstrong departing. Not only did they not make the $40 million investment that they had planned, but they also ended up just closing down their business and leaving town altogether, with pretty significant impacts to the city generally and specifically to the Urban Renewal Agency. So we were at a point where we need to make some amendments to the plan to fulfill our the projects we want to build that are identified in the plan. And so what you have before you is a map of some projects came in, some projects came out. It has actually a net reduction in area, but those adjustments should increase the taxable growth of the agency, and to get us jump started and back on a path where we can meet those obligations in our other plans along. And so I was going to Jenny Dimshow, our associate planner, has done a lot of work with this, and I was going to let her kind of lead you through the process and the community engagement efforts that have happened with our taxing partners and such, and I'll concede it over to her.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so as required by state statute, I'm just going to run through the involvement that we've had with the community since we started this process. So originally we met as the Urban Renewal Agency to kind of get guidance on moving forward with this process. We, at the last Planning Commission meeting, put this information before them, and they recommended approval of the amendment. John and I both went to the Columbia County Board of Commissioners and presented this to the board, and they asked a few clarifying questions, but no other significant input. They recommended approval. We also sent letters, physical notices to all 8 overlapping taxing districts. There are 9, including us. And then Rachel also followed up with a phone call just to make sure they received it and if they had any questions. So thanks to Rachel Berry for that. There was a comment from Columbia River Fire and Rescue. Merritt Nelson asked for the original 2017 plan to see the financial impacts that they had back then compared to the amended taxing district impacts. And actually with our amendment, the overall impacts to taxing jurisdictions is actually going down. And that's mostly due to what John mentioned about our revenue projections just being less than anticipated. So even with this amendment, the impact to taxing districts is estimated to be less than it was back in 2017. And so once Merritt got that information, they were satisfied on that front. They also pointed out in the letter that they received, there was a kind of a narrative explanation of the impacted taxing districts. And it said that I think it just mentioned that the Columbia River Fire and Rescue was not one of the most impacted, and that wasn't true. And so we corrected that in the narrative of the final report and in the taxing district letter they received. It didn't change any of the tables and estimated impacts financially. It was just a scrivener's error in the actual narrative description of their impact. And so I wanted to point that out because in your packet and in the ordinance, the report actually has an incorrect statement in it, and we're going to amend that so that the correct one gets uploaded online. We also sent notice in all of our utility billing customers. So that went to 4,740 customers, notice of this public hearing. And that's partially why I scheduled this for 6 p.m. I wasn't sure the interest that the community might have in attending this and learning about urban renewal or asking questions. I did receive under 5, I want to say it was 3 or 4 phone calls from the public. My contact information was in that notice. And they just asked what urban renewal was, what we're trying to fund. There was some questions about how it would impact them if they were within the agency. Those are really common questions. You know, they just want to make sure it's not going to increase their taxes. So I explained to them that no, this is just reallocating how your existing taxes go to, and that we're trying to fund projects on the waterfront. And so they were super supportive and grateful that I could explain it simply. So 3 phone calls, that's pretty good considering we sent this to 4,700 customers. And I'm not seeing a lot of attendance, but if there are questions for me, I can take those now. Otherwise, we can open it up for public comment.
Go ahead and open it up, Jenny.
Okay, and I'm hoping Matt can assist with if anyone's messaged him or raises their hand to speak.
Yeah, I'm done eating dinner.
Okay, great.
I don't see any comments or anybody with any kind of hand raised or.
Yeah, even if there are questions, we'd be happy to entertain those too. And for all the counselors, this amendment has been uploaded on our website since it was created. So you can always refer residents to that. And our existing plan that was adopted in 2017 is also on our website. So I've been using that URL whenever I talk to people.
And this is the follow-up from the meeting that we had a couple of months ago, and where you outlined all this and answered all of our questions at that time.
Yes.
This is just the formalization of that process.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're meeting as city council to formally adopt the amendment at this point.
Right.
This is a formal public hearing.
Yeah, it's not a change. It's stuff that we knew was coming. So I just want to, for people that missed the earlier meetings and earlier process, they might think, oh, they didn't even talk about it. But because we've talked about it a lot and you've outlined it in your report, that this is actually a reduction in space. And it's, you know, the right thing to do based on development.
Yeah, and I would say the one change I mentioned was just about the narrative explanation about the taxing districts. So that will be the one change in the final report.
And I would, this is Elaine, I'd like to interject and fall on my sword for that problem. That was a mistake from my firm, and I apologize for it, and we've gotten it corrected, and so my apology.
Well, I sure do appreciate all the work that you've put into this, Elaine, and your firm, and helping us assist us in getting this done, because it was crucially needed. And I also want to thank our taxing districts for knowing the significant value of doing this as a whole for the whole area, and the support that we've had in the school district, fire district, on and on county. It does not raise anybody's taxes. We don't have the ability to raise your taxes. It basically goes off assessed values in the increase in your property values, which is set by the county, which would mean that you would pay, we'd take a little percentage from the fire district, a little bit from the county, a little bit from with the other one I just said, school district, and a few more port. Very
Soil,
yeah.
just all the little groups chip in a little bit.
That's the main concern of a lot of people, Jenny, is what's this doing to my taxes?
Exactly. No, and that's the questions I asked from the general public too. And, you know, John and I mentioned this, you know, I don't think there's a lot of bandwidth for getting into the details of urban renewal right now. There's just so much else going on. So I'm not surprised that there's not a lot of input on this. It's also it's not new for the city to be working on this. So it's probably a good thing. No news is good news, I guess.
So I have a question for Elaine. Am I on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. When we have our what does this mean for our urban renewal agency at our next meeting? Do we have a process to go through to adopt this? Is there anything, or is this it? Is this kind of the finished part of the process?
This is the end of the process. So 2 months ago, the
Right.
agency actually reviewed it, and that was the agency's responsibility. And
Okay.
then the next step was the planning commission, and now it's the city council. So once this is done and the ordinance becomes effective, gets voted on and becomes effective, then Jenny will send notice to the assessor's office and record the amendment, and then everything is done. So it is a non-emergency ordinance that doesn't go into effect for 30 days, but this process is the ending part of that.
Thank you for explaining that. I appreciate it.
Is it now our turn to make a motion to put this forward?
We'll be doing that later in our council meeting.
Okay.
Jenny just wasn't sure because she sent out a ton of every water bill had this in it, and she wasn't sure what we would get at this hearing. So we're almost done with this meeting. We're gonna have a 45-minute break, it looks like.
I've got a question. Why was this scheduled at 5? Why was things scheduled so early? 5:45. Was there anticipated discussion on one of these issues?
Because it was advertised in our water bill to all the residents.
Well, I understand that, but maybe you didn't understand my question. That's okay.
Well, no, I'm trying to explain it. I do understand why was it scheduled so early, because she thought there might be more public testimony.
I get it.
Wanting to know information. So.
Yeah, the 2017 adoption did draw out. It was a longer conversation, so.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not often that we send utility billing inserts either.
So another key part that Elaine didn't note on too was not only did it need to go to the planning commission, but it also needed to go to those taxing districts and have ample time to have them look it over and accept.
Yeah, it was 45 days for comment, which ended yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah, and I guess, getting this done in an expeditious manner means that we'll capitalize on all of these different developments that we're hoping to capitalize on that are coming on the tax rolls next year.
Yep. Okay, any other questions before I close this public hearing?
Just to comment that there's been a lot of hard work and deadlines, and we've really been threading the needle here all along the way to kind of hit this mark, and appreciate everybody's efforts to get us to this point. So.
Yeah,
So-
shout out to Rachel Berry for sure too.
So
She's not
because
here, but
we only have the link for this is combined with regular session. So are we just going to pause and come back at 7?
Yes, that would be the idea.
Because we don't have a separate link for later. So don't close out.
Well, you could and relog back in, but it's kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah, you can officially close your browser and come back at 7 if you would like.
I have one question. So will you guys have any other further questions and deliberations for Elaine, or can we dismiss Elaine Howard?
I think we got it. I mean, I don't know that. I think with the staff is pretty knowledgeable. I think we're okay, Elaine. We appreciate you being here today.
Great.
Thanks, Elaine.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that, we'll close this public hearing and we will see you at 7. Matt, are you just going to restart us on Facebook later?
Yeah.